What is going on, everybody? We're going to go ahead and jump right into this. Justin, man, I got a question for you. So there's a lot of rumors going around, a lot of talk. Urban Meyer thing, it sounds like it's coming to an end. Urban Meyer has said no. Okay? I got a question for you before we start this off today. Do you think, perception-wise, does it matter? Maybe not necessarily who takes over for Tom Herman, but somebody has to take over for Tom Herman at this point.
Yeah, I think with everything going on and all the Urban Meyer talk, you kind of have to replace him. It would be a little messed up if they were like, "Hey, we're hiring Urban Meyer. We've already offered him 13 million," and then they're like, "You know what, Tom? He said no. Just stay."
Exactly.
So that's
Exactly.
kind
So
of
the perception is so bad right now. The rumors have gotten so bad. How can you let Tom Herman just like limp into the offseason and remain the head coach, remain the guy? There's a huge thing. One of the biggest differences, obviously, between the NFL and college is recruiting and the perception that comes with your head coach.
right.
Man, I just don't see how they can allow Tom Herman to be the head coach, regardless of who replaces him at this point. I don't see how they can let him continue.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. Tom, unfortunately, because I wanted him to stay, but after all this stuff came out, recruiting's going to be tough for you. They're like, why should I come play for a coach who's already on his deathbed?
Absolutely.
Like,
Absolutely.
that's kind of the gist is why would I go play for a coach who's not even going to be there? And then
Yeah.
from his standpoint, I'd already be job hunting as well. Not just from Texas' standpoint. They already offered another coach a job. I'm gonna go start collecting offers too, because someone's gonna hire him too.
Absolutely. And he's still a great coach. It's just the expectations here at the University of Texas are just too high. Honestly, they're just too high. I've said before, I mean, I love that. I love that. If Tom Herman would have done what he's done here at any other program, he'd still be the head coach. Everybody be loving him. Aside from maybe like Clemson and Alabama, things like that. But I mean, man, I think it's time. Like I said, regardless of who it is, there is a recruiting class that almost needs saving here at this point. There's guys, we've mentioned Quinn Ewers before on this channel. We'll kind of say him again, kind of mention him again here. Texas is his dream school. The University of Texas is his dream school. He was committed here about a month, maybe 2 months ago. He decommitted, committed to Ohio State. If a new coach, Justin, came in and was like, hey, bringing the life, bringing the energy back, got on the phone with this, young 16, 17-year-old kid, it may kind of, create a bridge there and we may get the guy back.
Yeah, you definitely need a big name to come in and kind of bring that hype back to Texas. We both know when Tom Herman was coming to Texas, it was a huge deal, and people were very hyped for him. Same prior to that with Charlie Strong. They're like, oh, he's going to be the savior, blah, blah, blah. And I believe those coaches have got this program moving in the right direction.
Absolutely.
The only problem is they just haven't gotten there yet. And I think they just need someone to kind of like you said before we even started the videos, kind of getting to the more or less getting to the top and staying there and being consistent. That's what they really need.
I absolutely believe your point of what you just said. The ship has been built. Now we need the right pilot.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I've liked Tom Herman, but I definitely think it's time. Let's go ahead, man. Let's jump into a little bit of a reaction to the Kansas State game. Real quick for me, Justin. Let's look at some running back numbers, man. What are you seeing when you look at that stat sheet real quick?
Yeah, so I had to leave to go to work at halftime, but Bijan Robinson is stupid. His stats are insane. He has 9 carries for 172 yards and 3 touchdowns. And that's only 3 of the 4 other touchdowns y'all got.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
7 total rushing touchdowns, which is ridiculous. Before I left, I was like, Dylan, this may be the game Texas finally blows out a team.
Yeah.
And sure
Yeah.
enough,
Sure
Texas
enough,
put
man.
60 on somebody. I am very happy about that.
Almost 70.
Yeah, yeah, well, yeah,
So
they
it was
had
great. I
this.
texted you at halftime, and I was like, Bijan Robinson has 10 yards of carry. It's time to shut him down. He can't play the second half. And then he comes out in the second half and he busts a 75-yarder. And I think actually after that one, I think that was one of his last touches of the game.
Yeah,
But man, just a phenomenal, call it a breakout performance if you want. They finally allowed him to touch the football, and he had a lot of success doing it. Another kind of funny thing is we ran our first ever, at least from what I can remember, halfback slip screen.
We talked about that
It's
last week.
crazy, man. It's crazy. We finally drew up a play that's supposed to work against aggressive fronts.
Yeah. It's
Oh,
we talked about that last week when y'all were running wide receiver screens like left and right, and y'all were just RPOing people to death. But it's crazy to me how you can't run a slip screen or haven't chosen to run a slip screen. That should be a clear cut staple, especially when you're struggling against pressure or blitzes or anything of that nature, or recognizing blitzes. So,
agreed, 100%. And then, man, I do think there is something to say about Kansas State, some COVID stuff here and there, players, injuries, all that. I definitely think you could kind of make a little bit of an excuse that maybe they weren't at 100% or their heart wasn't all the way in it. But for one of the first times under Tom Herman, we played against a team that we should beat. We got a lead, and then we pounded away. And it was great. It was a lot of fun to watch.
yeah, I'm Texas stopped at the perfect number 69, so they. But no, yeah, it's been good to see them run the ball and actually pound the rock and beat a team that, like you said, should have beat. I don't really know how Kansas felt. I did hear that, like, if I remember right, they were talking about during the game that they already had like close to like 8 players sitting at the house because of the COVID stuff. So,
I thought, and I may be wrong here. I thought I heard a number like in the 20s.
oh wow, well
Like
that
it
would
was like
be
it was like a lot.
well that
Like
would be
yeah.
really rough. That's almost the equivalent of
Like I
making
think
Denver play without a quarterback kind of
yeah,
deal.
exactly.
That's
Exactly.
that's kind
And
of the only thing I can compare it to.
no, sure. And I think one of their linebackers was having to start at safety for them. Like it was that bad.
Wow.
Um, so like I said, there absolutely could be excuses made, right? There
Right.
could be like this team wasn't really in it. One of the things that I felt too, though, especially early in the game, is this felt like a team that was playing with no pressure.
Yeah.
It was a great feeling. The kind of being in the Big 12 championship race was over.
Yeah.
This team just went out and played.
The
And it was that simple, and they were just better than the people that they were playing, and it showed.
Yeah, the intensity was definitely kind of gone. You could tell that they were just out there kind of, especially during the warm-ups, like pregame. You could tell they were kind of just going through the motions and just, hey guys, this is almost like a scrimmage, and just slinging the ball around. There wasn't a lot of intensity or hype, and they just kind of went out there and played ball, and Texas did well.
It looked good, and I'm glad it really got the run game established. There was a lot made. Sam Cosmi opting out. Kirk Stetter was kind of dinged up during practice. What was our offensive line going to look like? We had a true freshman center stepped in. Obviously, didn't skip a beat there. Looked good. Offensive line looked good. And the front seven of Kansas State was considered the strength of their whole team. And we had no problem running them. Roshan Johnson, Bijan Robinson, obviously, they both had great days. Sam had a pretty good day. They didn't ask him to do a whole lot, but he, as far as the numbers, he put up plenty of numbers. Excited for the future there. Roshan being a sophomore, Bijan Robinson being a freshman, and then both of them not necessarily using eligibility years here. Both of those guys are going into next year. 1 and 2 workhorses. Let's get it.
Yeah, I'm still like skeptical. Like, this is something I've always thought is like, why wouldn't Sam just stay another year if this isn't you know more or less the end of his Texas career like it should have been. If he can correct some of the wrongs he had this season and bring that draft stock up next year, do you think like he makes that attempt?
Oh, I think a lot about that question, man.
Because I feel like it would be smart for him too. And you don't really, we haven't seen many other Texas quarterbacks, so people are just going to be like, oh, we got Sam again, let's keep it rolling. Because people
hmm
love Sam.
hmm
Um, they're not too critical of Sam when they really need to be as
Sure,
Texas fans, but
sure.
I really think like you could have a shot at Sam coming back just because I don't think he'll be a more or less a top four,
Yeah, he
like
may be a
fourth
day 3
round.
draft
He
guy.
may be
Yeah, he may be
he
a
may be
fifth,
fourth,
sixth, seventh
fifth,
rounder type
sixth.
of guy.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So here's what I think about that. There's a couple things here. One, if we get the right head coach, who knows what Sam decides to do,
Yeah.
right? Sam has accepted his Senior Bowl invite.
Yeah,
That is important.
because at this point in the season, we're talking about Texas's future, right? Like
Absolutely.
that's all we're talking about. There's no more like, hey, we're going here or there. We're looking towards next season, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because I mean, y'all still have what, like one more game, two more
We
games?
might not even play that one game. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
we're supposed to play Kansas this weekend,
Yeah,
but with COVID and everything, there's uncertainty there.
yeah. And it's not
Should
worth.
know more.
It's not. Yeah, it's not worth it at this point if you're gonna put people's health at risk, and
Sure,
the
sure.
game doesn't even really matter.
It doesn't mean
So
anything. Yeah, other
yeah,
than money. Yeah,
yeah,
that's it. Yeah. So back to what I'm saying. If you get the right head coach, I would think that Sam could definitely be swayed to come back. I would think a new coach coming in would love a fifth-year senior quarterback, right?
yeah.
Would
Absolutely.
love a guy with all the leadership and all the stats and a locker room guy, the work ethic, all that stuff is there. I would think that he would absolutely love that. From my perspective as a fan, if we're talking about like what is Sam going forward in the NFL, I think we already know who he is, right? I think Sam's been here long enough. We've seen progression, but that progression has been limited. Okay. We have seen a guy who has never developed a consistent, accurate deep ball. At some point, you have to look at it like he's
capped out.
obviously he could still get better, right? He's still a young guy. I don't know exactly how old he is, 21, 22. Like he can definitely still improve. But how drastic are those improvements going to be?
Yeah,
He's not going to become Patrick Mahomes in one offseason type of thing, right?
that is very true.
And so, I kind of look at that like, and I know this is terrible to say, but I almost want to see a new quarterback.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? I want to see a guy who can come in with a little more athleticism. Sam is a really crafty runner, but he's not a home run hitter type of guy. A little better arm. Sam has like no whip, no arm strength at all.
yeah,
He can get it out there a little bit as far as throwing it distance, and then the accuracy. I think all around it can be so much better. I think kind of give another guy a chance here.
yeah. Well, this is kind of a weird situation because, like, what if you do come in with the new head coach and they convince Sam to stay with more or less thinking from a coaching standpoint with the mentality of Sam's going to hold it down first season. I'm going to make my focus developing these young guys we either have already or bringing in. It gives them a season to sit behind me, learn this system
Hmm.
without having to worry about the pressure of playing, without being critiqued by, media. They have
Sure.
nothing to worry about other than developing. And
Sure.
that could be ridiculously valuable to a new head coach. That's the only
Yeah.
reason I say, like, if Sam does stay, obviously we got to take into consideration his thoughts. He may just want to be like, I'm done with college, I'm out of here, or he could want to stay and be the face of Texas one more year, which he's given the chance to with this no eligibility rule coming in this year, and I think it would be so interesting to see. And I know Texas has a couple young quarterbacks right now sitting behind him,
Yeah. They
and
do absolutely.
so like they could use that as a more or less. They're not using a year of eligibility. They could more or less redshirt or whatever they need to do and
Hmm.
develop. And I think it would be great as a coach, to have that ability is have more or less a fifth year guy,
Right.
and I could focus on these young guys without them having to deal with the pressure. But what do you think about that?
I do. I like that.
That's the only reason. Like I understand wanting a new quarterback, but from a brand new coaching standpoint,
Sure.
coming in with a brand new quarterback who's barely touched the field,
Hmm.
I mean, that one year could be unreal valuable to a guy.
Yeah. No, absolutely true. Absolutely true. I don't see it being better or worse either way, honestly,
Okay.
because I think that bringing Sam back could potentially limit the explosiveness of our offense.
Yeah.
And so there's absolutely he's better than what the floor could be, right?
Right.
We have no idea what those other guys are, right? And so throwing a new guy, throwing a Casey Thompson or a Hudson Card, guys that we've never really seen play in live action. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right. There's no telling what they're going to look like.
Yeah. Because
Um,
they could come out and just be bad.
They could be. But they could also come out, Justin,
and light people up.
and light it up. And that's the one thing that Sam won't ever do is really light it up.
That is very true.
And we do play in the Big 12. They're explosive quarterbacks, explosive wide receivers, running backs everywhere. We need to be able to keep up with teams, play defense. I think our defense has gotten a lot better this year. Hopefully that continues with whoever our head coach is next year, because we're going to get a lot of those defenders back.
Right.
Hopefully they can keep balling. But yeah, I definitely think that's an interesting question. And I don't really know how to feel one way or the other, honestly.
I feel it.
So, all right. So I know we kind of touched on this a little bit. Another question for you as we kind of wrap this up. There is a legit possibility that we do not play versus Kansas. There is a legit possibility that even with making a bowl game, that bowl game does not get played. I obviously would like for as many of our young players to get as many reps in practice as we can going forward. I know this year doesn't count as eligibility, but any more, couple weeks, 3 or however many weeks we can get where we can have guys practice and play and learn, I'm all for that. How do you feel as far as, the health risk of it? Where do you stand? Should this kind of be, if this is the last game, is that kind of good enough? How do you feel about this season kind of wrapping up here?
For Texas, honestly, at this point, outside looking in, more or less, I'm okay with them not playing at all. And I can
another game.
Not like at all, like playing any other game. And the
Okay.
reason behind that is you already are looking at a new head coach. Like, if you don't have to play those games and you can bring in a new head coach right now, that gives him more time to settle in and get prepared for, more or less recruiting season and the off season and spring ball and getting his coaches lined up. And
Sure.
he's already making calls, and people may still be finishing seasons, and he's,
That's
all he's doing is sitting at the office like, hey, buddy, like, you remember me? Like, hey,
remember me?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot going on right now as far as like waiting for other people's seasons to end too, wait for some of these championship games to end.
And those phone
see how
calls
things
are already
kinda play out.
happening, though. That's my thing, is those phone calls are already happening right now.
They're happening, but no decisions are going to be made yet.
Right. But you can get those feelers out there and get a feel like, hey, buddy, are you interested?
Oh, they've been feeling for months now.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah,
hey,
they've
you
been feeling
interested?
forever.
Tom Herman's feeling the phone call, so why shouldn't, the new head coach of Texas be calling people? So
Yeah, no, that's true. Any jump start, any head start he can get on it would be kind of nice.
Absolutely. Yeah. So if you don't play, I'm okay with that, but you've got to determine that early, because if you do, you want to get the new guy in as soon as possible.
And we've at this point, especially with last week, we've seen enough from Bijan Robinson to know who he
Absolutely.
is. We're excited going forward, man. We've got a workhorse, a beast of a running back. Unleash him next year. I don't care who the head coach is. Number one tip: unleash Bijan Robinson.
Agreed. That should be the motto next year.
Unleash the beast. All right, everybody, that's it from us today. Appreciate y'all checking out the channel, checking out the video. Throw us a like, throw us a sub. Justin's doing Cowboys videos. We're doing Longhorn videos. We got NFL stuff. Off season's right around the corner. Playoffs are right around the corner. We're going to be busy putting out content. Appreciate y'all.
Top 3 pick coming that way.